Vâng, nhóm 3 đâu ạ, các em giúp thầy chuẩn bị slide đi.
Em thưa thầy là bây giờ đang có anh Hiếu ạ, anh đang xin vào, anh ấy gửi yêu cầu rồi nhưng mà chưa được chấp nhận ạ.
Rồi
Thế
rồi,
nên
thầy
là
đã xét rồi. Tâm Nhi ơi, em xem giúp thầy, em vẫn là owner mà, em đã xét giúp thầy với. Nhi có đấy không em? Để thầy chỉnh lại cho Nhi làm owner nhé.
Em chào thầy ạ.
Ừ, đấy đấy, có gì Nhi xem có bạn nào vào để xét của thầy. Rồi chắc các em bắt đầu đi nhỉ? Thì không đợi nữa các em.
hello class and everyone. Today our group 3 will present to you about the Asian financial crisis in 1990s. Um, come to the introduction. Um, Firstly, the 1997 Asian financial crisis was a period of financial crisis that gripped much of East and Southeast Asia during the late 1990s. The crisis began in Thailand in July 1997 before spreading to several other countries with a ripple effect, raising fears of a worldwide economic meltdown due to financial contagion. However, the recovery in 1998 and 1999 was rapid, and worries of a meltdown quickly subsided. Originating in Thailand, where it was known as the Tom Yum Kung crisis on 2nd July, it followed the financial collapse of the Thai baht after the Thai government was forced to float the baht due to lack of foreign currency to support its currency peg to the US dollar. Capital flight ensued almost immediately and beginning an international chain reaction. At the time, Thailand has acquired a burden of foreign debt, and as the crisis spread, other Southeast Asian countries and later even Japan and South Korea saw slumping currencies, devalued stock markets, and other asset price. In the and the and a rise in private debt. Foreign debt to GDP ratios rose from 100% to 167% in the four large ASEAN economies in the period of 1993 to 1996, then shot up beyond 118% during the worst of the crisis. And in South Korea, the ratio rose from 13% to 21%, and then as high as 40%, while the other northern newly industrialized countries fared much better. But only in Thailand and South Korea did debt service to export ratio rise. And now we will move on to the causes of the crisis.
Causes of Asian financial crisis in 1997. A financial and monetary crisis occurred that severely affected most of the Asian tigers, include South Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, even significantly affecting the United States. the following causes are most basic causes and also the size that cause the crisis to form. Firstly, policy. The first cause is policy to control capital flows. In 1994, economist Paul Grumman, MIT, warned about the truth of East Asian economic miracle. He said that economic growth, thanks to tireless pumping of investment capital from the outside without making substantial progress in production as well as improving general productivity. It is difficult to bring about long-term prosperity. The cause of crisis stems from the fact that the financial system and legal regulation are slow to change in the face of the development of global and economic integration, and the capital markets open too fast. Even the measure to loosen the control of short-term capital flows took place faster than long-term foreign direct investment. The larger amount of short-term capital is due to invest in long-term investment in the country, leading to deviations in terms of maturity and currency. Unlike the crisis in the 1980s, private capital inflows increased sharply while official capital flows declined. The ITO pointed out that private capital flows to the Asian market increased sevenfold from 1919 to 1996. Inflows to Asia continued to increase sharply in 1996 thanks to a policy of fixed exchange rate against the USD, which encouraged capital inflows, investment, and bank credit from Europe and US despite the unstable financial situation, contributed to the formation of purple economy and high asset price. However, capital flows are mainly short-term interbank loans, easily withdrawable and guaranteed by banks. Therefore, the crisis occurred. Capital flow escaped the local currency plummeted, increasing the burden bank debt. The second crisis is the decline in exports. Asian economic boom had a significant contribution of promoting export, where export revenues increased by an average of 18% in USD terms. But when export growth slowed in the mid-1990s, it hit the economy and domestic production hard. Inflexible export policy and slow technology improvement have reduced the attractiveness of East Asian countries to North America and Europe in front of dynamic regions such as China and Latin America. The drop in growth exacerbated in current account deficits and limited the ability to pay short-term debts, thereby exacerbating the macroeconomy. By the end of 1997, short-term debt had exceeded foreign exchange reserves in Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea. Vulnerability of Asian countries to growing crisis. The third crisis is the balance of international payment is out of balance. The current account deficit is prolonged due to the rigid exchange rate policy, almost fixed and heavily dependent on the US dollar. In the period 1991 to 1996, Thailand trade balance was always in deficit amounting to 35.26 billion USD. The current account deficit in 1996 amounted to $14.7 billion. Almost all analysts of this Asia crisis emphasize that appreciation of real exchange rate is strongly related to the decline in competitiveness as well as the structural deterioration of the balance sheet. Commerce. Asia countries pursue a fixed exchange rate regime against the US dollar because of its stability. When the domestic currency is fixed against the US currency, domestic inflation is higher. The real currency appreciates, leading to loss of export competitiveness. Foreign capital inflow gradually decrease. The fourth causes is the weak management in financial and bank sector. The commercial banking system and other financial institutions develop quickly but operate efficiently. The ability to value credit risk of banking system is weakened due to inadequate supervision, relatively large divestment, low capital adequacy ratio. The economy is vulnerable to financial collapse. It can be tracked back to the mid-1980s when Indonesia opened up a competitive banking industry but never introduced modern regulation. The lack of proper regulation has allowed banks and corporations to have unrestricted external borrowing capacity and disproportionate loan maturities. Moreover, the risk of using short-term loans to lend medium and long-term investment increase the risk of bad debt. Total bad debt to GDP is 20% in Thailand, 23% in Malaysia, 11% in Indonesia, and 8% in the Philippines. The fifth cause is political uncertainty and policy uncertainty. There was a great deal of political turmoil in Asia. The year 1997 represented political reform, the collapse of Thailand government, policy reversal, and news. Bad news about Indonesian President Suharto is the presidential campaign in Korea, the threat of labor unrest in prison are factors causing the decrease in expectation about the financials and political environment. Contributed to increase the severity of crisis, balance of payments deficits, the exchange rate, and so on. The sixth and the last causes a foreign currency speculation from outside, and equally important, I see beyond the region of control is the impact of currency speculation activity that have many financial currency crisis and increased possibility in infections. For many years before that, the government of many countries implemented loose monetary policies, causes the domestic money supply to high. According to IMF, most East Asian countries have a manual increase in money supply of 2 to 5 times the GDP growth rate. It is that inflates asset by real estate and creates a state of purple economy after losing money in housing and stock fever. Foreign investors panic and fleeing capital. The trade deficits along with short-term liabilities keep increasing, make USD become extremely scarce. It is massive and sudden fly of foreign capital that hit both manufacturing and causes more stress, lasting longer with a wider spread than the financial monetary crisis. Therefore, there are many causes leading to the Asian financial and monetary crisis of 1997 to 1998, both at the national, regional, and international levels. However, the causes stemming of crisis affected countries are core causes of that crisis.
Now we now move on to the development of the Asian financial crisis. First is the situation before the crisis. During the late 1980s to early 1990s, many Asian countries like Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, and South Korea experienced an economic miracle with a growth rate of 8 to 12% per year. However, this development mostly came from hot money invested in real estate and market weak from an economic bubble. In the early 1990s, the U.S. Federal Reserve System began to raise the U.S. interest rate to head off inflation, so that for the nation who has their currency back into the U.S. dollar, the higher become more expensive and less competitive in the global market. This has caused many Asian nations' export growth to be slowed dramatically. As you can see in the example in the Korea net export from 1993 and 1998, you can see a downtrend in during the spring of the January 1996. Next is in the mid 1990s, Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea has large private currency account deficit due to the EU-controlled credit expansion and the maintenance of the fixed exchange rate. The next is development of the crisis. The crisis started in Thailand on 14th and 15th of May 1997. The Thai baht was hit by massive speculative attack. After that, the Thai government tried to defend the USD baht currency back by using their foreign reserve, but eventually they were forced to float the baht on the 2nd of July 1997. This has caused the chain effect on region-wide crisis. As you can see, after the Thai government float the baht, its exchange rate is right to Thai baht from Thai baht to USD right dramatically. In the Malaysia, the Malaysia ringgit faced many heavy speculation, prompting strict capital control and 3.8 peg against the USD by the Malaysian government. In Indonesia, The Indonesia Monetary Authority expanded the rupee trading ban from 8 to 12%, leading to a sudden and severe depreciation of the currency in August. In Philippines, the central bank defended the peso by raising the overnight rate from 15 to 32%, resulting in the peso exchange rate drop from 26 to 46.5 peso per dollar. In South Korea, after several Asian currencies were attacked by speculators, the Korean won started to depreciate in October 1997. Due to the crisis, the IMF have to take an action. The IMF created a series of bailout with the estimated value of around 100 billion US dollar, with many conditions, including currency, banking, and financial system reform, and performing a contractionary monetary and fiscal policy. Now move on to the effect of the financial and monetary system.
Okay, I'm going to be presenting about the effects on the financial and monetary system. So the common effect on global monetary and financial system is contagion effect. The interrelation of the global financial market led to a contagion effect, where the crisis spilled over to other regions like Russia, Brazil, Turkey. This highlighted the vulnerability of the global financial system to sudden shocks and increased systemic risk. For example, the first country affected was Russia, which suffered currency depreciation, defaulted on its ruble denominated debt, leading to economy recession, and many banks were insolvent. Russia crisis led to Latin America, especially Brazil. Brazil was suffer speculative attacks and also currency depreciation from 1.21 per dollar to 1.18. Brazil devaluation contributed to recessions in Argentina and Uruguay and generated speculative attacks that forced Ecuador to float. Next one is going to be effects on a global monetary system is currency depreciation. During the crisis, many countries' currencies experienced sharp depreciation. This depreciation had adverse effects on international trade and investment flows, as it made imports more expensive and increased the burden of foreign debt for affected country. For example, Russia falling prices for oil, the country's major export, and weak growth generated speculative attacks. The ruble depreciated from 6.2 per dollar to more than 20 per dollar. The government defaulted on its ruble-denominated debt and Soviet-era foreign debt, and imposed a moratorium on private sector payments of foreign debt. The economy fell into recession. Many Russian banks become insolvent. Next is the effects on global financial system. The first one is capital flight. The crisis led to a massive capital flight out of affected Asian countries. Investors, fearing further currency devaluation and financial instability, rapidly withdrew their investment. Exacerbating the crisis is also made many banks became too insolvent. The second one is shift into global financial power. The crisis revealed weakness in the Asian currencies and financial institutions. As a result, there was a shift in global financial power towards developed economies, leading to increased dominance of the US dollar and Western financial institution. We're going to move on to the conclusion.
To conclude, the Asian financial crisis of 1990s was a pivotal moment in global finance because it exposed the weaknesses in regional financial system, and they triggered a severe economic downturn. There were many speculative investment, excessive borrowing, and inadequate regulation contributed to the crisis. Its consequences included many economic contractions, unemployment rate, and the bankruptcies. And the crisis revealed vulnerabilities in global financial interconnectedness and prompted significant policy changes such as financial restructuring and improved governance. There are many lessons which can be learned, like to reforms, promoting resilience, cooperation, and stability. The crisis serves as a reminder of the risks in rapidly growing economies and highlights the importance of responsible financial management and effective regulation. It fosters regional cooperation and integration, strengthening the financial architecture. And overall, the Asian financial crisis in the 1990s remains a significant event in the economic history, driving reforms that contribute to a more stable global financial system. And that's the end of our presentation today. Thank you for listening.
Vâng, cảm ơn nhóm bạn. Một phần thuyết trình rất là tốt. Vâng, đầy đủ thông tin và đáp ứng hết các cái yêu cầu đặt ra. Thầy chỉ có một câu hỏi rất là nhanh cho nhóm thôi. Các em nói về trong cái conclusion của các em ấy, các em nói rằng là sau cái cuộc khủng hoảng tài chính châu Á 1997 này thì nó đã đặt ra cái vấn đề phải tái cấu trúc lại cái hệ thống tiền tệ quốc tế, đúng không ạ? Reconstruction, re-architect. Thế thì ở đây cụ thể là thế nào ạ? Vâng, sau cái khủng hoảng này thì cái điều gì nó mới diễn ra đối với cả cái cách vận hành của hệ thống tiền tệ quốc tế? Có quy định gì mới không? Đúng không ạ? Hay là có cái phương thức, cơ chế nào mới hay không? Các bạn nghe được câu hỏi chưa ạ?
Dạ, bọn em đã nghe được câu hỏi rồi ạ.
Còn các bạn khác trong lớp ạ, xin mời nhận xét và đặt câu hỏi cho nhóm 3. Đặc biệt phần diễn biến các em trình bày rất là tốt đấy. Vậy thì cuối cùng thì bản chất của cái cuộc khủng hoảng này là gì? Nhóm 1, nhóm 3. Sau khi các em nghiên cứu, các em thấy rằng bản chất của cái cuộc khủng hoảng này là gì ạ? Cái mâu thuẫn nào nó dẫn tới cái cuộc khủng hoảng này? Các bạn đưa ra rất nhiều nguyên nhân đúng không? Khoảng 6-7 cái nguyên nhân. Nhưng về bản chất thì đâu là cái căn nguyên, cái nguyên nhân cốt lõi dẫn tới cái cuộc khủng hoảng này? Nếu như ví dụ như là cái cuộc đại khủng hoảng đúng không ạ? Năm 1929 thì cái căn nguyên cốt lõi của nó là do khủng hoảng thừa trong sản xuất của các nước tư bản, đúng không ạ? Của các nước phát triển. Họ sản xuất quá nhiều hàng hóa, sản xuất quá nóng và không tiêu thụ được hàng hóa, dẫn tới ngưng trệ sản xuất, dẫn tới thất nghiệp, dẫn tới và sau đó nó lan sang cái thị trường tài chính. Thế thì ở cái cuộc khủng hoảng này theo các em thì bản chất nó là cái gì? Nhóm 4 chuẩn bị slide đi em. Mời
Thầy
nhóm
cho
3.
nhóm 3 bọn em một chút thời gian để trả lời cả hai câu hỏi của thầy được không ạ?
Rồi, ok. Vâng, xin mời nhóm tiếp theo ạ, nhóm 4 ạ. Nhóm 4, các em chuẩn bị đi ạ. Ở nhóm 4 được rồi các em, chuẩn bị slide đi. Mời Thúy Nga.
Hỏi đợi bọn em một chút ạ.
Ok.
Em có câu hỏi cho nhóm 3 thôi ạ. Có thêm một câu hỏi nữa. So you all know that when the IMF fund the financial crisis in 1990s, there was a political reason on it, and can you explain for me what is the reason for the IMF support like rescue package?
Rồi, nhóm 3 nghe rõ câu hỏi không ạ?
Dạ bọn em nghe được rồi.
Rồi, cảm ơn Nga. Nếu không có ai có câu hỏi thì xin mời nhóm 4 ạ. Chúng ta bắt đầu đi.
Hello teacher, hi everyone. Today our groups will present about courses development and effect of global financial crisis 2008 on global monetary system and financial system. So first is what is 2008 financial crisis? The 2008 financial crisis was a severe worldwide economic crisis that occurred in the early 21st century. It was the most serious financial crisis since the Great Depression and the threat to destroy international financial system. The crisis was caused by a combination of factors such as predatory lending targeting low-income homebuyers, excessive risk-taking by global financial institutions, and the bursting of United States housing bubble, culminating in a perfect storm. The crisis led to the failure or near failure of several major investment and commercial banks, mortgage lenders, insurance companies, and saving and loan association. Governments deploy massive bailouts of financial institutions and other palliative monetary and fiscal policy to prevent the collapse of global financial system. The 2008 financial crisis, also known as the subprime mortgage crisis, was a severe contraction of liquidity in global financial market and originated in the United States as a result of collapse of the U.S. housing market. Some of the factors that contribute to the crisis including first, it's the Federal Reserve reduced the federal funds rate 11 times between May 2000 and December 2001, from 6.5% to 175%. 1.75%. This significant decrease enabled banks to extend consumer credit at a lower prime rate and encourage them to lend even to subprime or high-risk customers. Second is customers took advantage of the cheap credit to purchase durable goods such as appliances, automobiles, and especially houses. The result was the creation of, in the late 1990s, of the housing bubble. And the last is predatory lending targeting low-income homebuyers and excessive risk-taking by global financial institutions also played a role in the crisis. Move to the second part is the development of global financial crisis 2008.
Okay, and this is the part, the development of global financial crisis 2008. Firstly, about the development and the 2007 to 2008 financial crisis developed gradually. Home prices began to fall in early 2006. In early 2007, subprime lenders began to file for bankruptcy. In June 2007, two big hedge funds fall, which down by investments in subprime loans. In August 2007, losses from subprime loan investments caused a panic that froze the global lending system. In September 2008, Lehman Brothers collapsed in the biggest U.S. bankruptcy ever. When the bubble burst, financial institutions were left holding trillions of dollars worth of near worthless investment in subprime mortgages. And nextly, about the development of the global financial crisis in 2008 can be analyzed through the lens of international political economy. Firstly, about the interdependence, the crisis originated in the US with the collapse of the housing market and the subprime mortgage crisis. However, due to the interconnectivity of the global financial system, the crisis quickly spread to causing a global economic downturn. Interdependence applied the impact of the crisis as financial institutions around the world held complex financial products tied to the U.S. housing market, resulting in widespread contagion. And secondly, about the power relations, IPE theory recognized power asymmetries between states and economic actors. In the lead-up to the crisis, powerful financial institutions play a significant role. They engage in excessive risk-taking fueled by complex financial instruments such as mortgage-backed security and collateralized debt obligations. These institutions, driven by profit motive, had substantial influence over policymakers and were able to shape regulatory frameworks to their advantage. The power dynamics allow for risky behavior and contribute to the build-up of a highly leveraged and interconnected financial system. And thirdly, about the additional factors, IPE theories emphasize the roles of ideas, norms, and beliefs in shaping economic behavior. In the years preceding the crisis, there was a prevailing ideology and that the financial markets were inherently self-regulating and that financial innovation would lead to greater stability. This belief in the efficiency of markets and the effectiveness of financial engineering influenced policymakers and regulators to adopt a hands-off approach to oversight. The crisis shattered this idea and highlighted the need of revolution, the role of the state in regulating financial markets, and fourthly is about the global governance. IPE highlights the importance of institution and governance structure in shaping economic outcomes. The crisis exposed weaknesses in global financial governance as existing institutions like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank were ill prepared to handle the systemic risks and contagion effects. The absence of effective global coordination hidden a timely and comprehensive response to the crisis. This reveal the need for improved global governance mechanisms to address financial instability. And last but not least is the distributional effects. IPE examines how economic processes shaped winners and losers. The financial crisis had significant distributional effects, with the burden falling heavily on ordinary citizens. Widespread job losses, home foreclosures, and declining living standards affected individuals and communities, particularly those who held subprime mortgages. The crisis exposed the unequal distribution of risks and rewards in the financial system, with ordinary people bearing the brunt of the consequence, and why financial elites really bailouts and remains largely accountable. So that is all of the development of global financial crisis in 2008. And next, we will move to the part 3.
So after we make clear all about the definition and the development of the financial crisis, I would like to talk about its effect on the global monetary system. So the global financial crisis of 2008 had a profound impact on the global monetary system. Like, we examined this effect from the perspective of the various international political economy theories. First of all, from the perspective of the liberalism, the crisis revealed the vulnerability of the system, including inadequate regulatory oversight and excessive risk-taking. Like, liberal theories argue for increased transparency, regulation, and cooperation among countries to address the weaknesses. The crisis also led to a re-evaluation of the role of international financial institutions, such as the IMF and the World Bank, in promoting stability and providing financial assistance to affected countries. Next, from a Marxist perspective, the global financial crisis exposed the contradiction and inequality within the capitalist monetary system. Marxist theories argue that the crisis was a result of financial speculation, profit-driven behaviors, and wealth concentration. They see the crisis as evidence of the inherent flaws of capitalism and advocate for systematic transformations. And additionally, Marxist theories highlight how the crisis disproportionately affects marginalized groups, exacerbating inequality on a global scale. And from the perspective of the constructivism, all the constructivist theory emphasize the role of ideas, norms, and identities in shaping the global monetary system. So the crisis challenged existing ideas and norms about financial regulation, risk management, and monetary policies. It prompted a re-evaluation of economic practices and encouraged the emergence of new ideas, such as the need for more responsible lending, stricter financial regulations, and sustainable economic models. Like, constructivists emphasize the role of shared norms and cooperations among states in addressing the crisis and shaping the global monetary system. Last but not least, from the perspective of realism, The realist theories focus on the power dynamics and the pursuit of national interests in international politics. So the global financial crisis affects the power relations among states and highlight the interdependence of economies. Realists argue that the crisis weakens the economic position of some states, while others emerge relatively stronger. It also emphasized the importance of states protecting their own economic interests and led to a measure such as capital controls and protectionist policies. So the realists view the global monetary system as a reflection of a power struggle among states and advocate for policy that safeguard national economic interests. Then in the conclusion, after I mentioned for perspective of the international economic, political economy, the global financial crisis of 2008 had a significant impact on the global monetary system from the perspective of international political economy theories. Like these theories highlight the issues of regulation, the capitalism, power dynamics, and the ideas and norms. It also provides different insights into the cause and consequences of the crisis and the subsequent changes in the global monetary landscape. So next to it, we talk about the effect of the global financial.
The global financial crisis of 2008 had a significant impact on the global financial system. Several theoretical perspectives can have analyzed its effects. First of all, according to liberal theories, the global financial crisis highlighted the vulnerability of an interconnected global financial system. It underscores the importance of free market, open trade, and transparent regulations. Liberal theorists argue that the crisis results from failures in the regulatory oversight, excessive risk-taking by financial institutions, and inadequate information sharing among countries. The crisis led to call for greater international cooperation in financial regulation and the strengthening of global financial institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund and the Financial Stability Board. From the Marxist perspective, the global crisis revealed the inherent contradiction of capitalism and the exploitative nature of the financial system. Marxist theorists argue that the crisis was rooted in the pursuit of profit, the commodification of financial institutions, and the speculative behavior of financial institutions. The content that the crisis exposed, the structural inequalities within and between countries, in the burden of the crisis disproportionately falling on the working class and the poor. This perspective emphasizes the need for systemic change and the re-evaluation of the capital system itself. Next is constructivism. Constructivist theory focuses on the role of ideas, norms, and identities in shaping international politics and the global financial system. The crisis prompts a re-evaluation of existing ideas and norms about the financial regulation, risk management, and the role of the state. Constructivists argue that the crisis creates a window of opportunity for new ideas to emerge, such as the need of greater financial transparency, responsible lending practice, and a shift towards more sustainable economic models. It also highlighted the interconnectedness of economies and the importance of coordination and cooperation among states. Finally, is a realism. Realism theory emphasizes power dynamics and the pursuit of national interests in international politics. The global financial crisis has an implication for power relations among states and led to shift in global economic power. Some realist theories argue that the crisis weakened the United States' position as the dominant global economic power and accelerate the rise of emerging countries such as China. It also highlighted the independence of states in the global financial system as the crisis spread rapidly across borders. Realists emphasize the importance of states protecting their own economic interests and advocating for policy that safeguard their domestic economies. In conclusion, international political economy theories provide different perspectives on the effect of the global financial crisis of 2008 on the global financial system. These theories highlight issues of regulation, capitalism, power dynamic, and idea and norms, offer various insights to the cause and consequences of the crisis and the substantive change in the global financial landscape. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening.
Vâng, cảm ơn nhóm 4. Cái hướng tiếp cận của các em rất là hay. Các em, đặc biệt là cái phần effects của nó, các em cố gắng chia theo cái các cái quan điểm lý thuyết, đúng không ạ? Các cái trường phái lý thuyết trong IP. Tuy nhiên là một là cái việc trình bày các em có vấn đề. Các em nói rất nhiều các nội dung thì đáng lẽ ra là với mỗi nội dung đó chúng ta nên có một cái slide tổng hợp riêng. Thì các cái người nghe người ta sẽ dễ follow hơn. Thứ hai nữa là cái ví dụ cụ thể của chúng ta cũng hơi ít. Đấy, thành ra là kết hợp giữa cái việc mà nội dung nhiều xong lại không có slide tổng hợp riêng, xong lại không có những cái điểm dừng để chúng ta nói những cái ví dụ, thành ra là cái bài nó bị trôi đi và nó không thì thầy chỉ có một số nhận xét thế thôi. Các bạn trong lớp đặt câu hỏi giúp ạ. Có câu hỏi gì về khủng hoảng tài chính 2018 2008?
Em thưa thầy là em có một câu hỏi dành cho nhóm bạn ạ.
Khánh Linh ạ?
Dạ vâng ạ, Vũ Khánh Linh ạ.
Rồi, mời Khánh Linh.
Em muốn hỏi nhóm bạn là cuộc khủng hoảng tài chính năm 2008 thì đã tác động tới nền kinh tế Việt Nam như thế nào ạ?
Rồi, cảm ơn Khánh Linh ạ. Yến Nhi.
Em cũng có một câu hỏi dành cho nhóm bạn ạ. So in the causes, they did mention that there were a lot of factors that caused this event, and I noticed that some of them were like the housing bubbles, the like the housing bubbles, the collapse of the housing market, and some other more like the interconnectedness of the financial systems. So I feel like there were a lot of heavily consequences like on the social at that time. So my question for you guys was like, is which class, like the poor, the middle, or the rich, received the most like serious effect? And do you guys think that this kind of event caused the inequality like to rise, led to an increase in inequality? Yes.
Okay. All right. Cảm ơn Yến Nhi. Which social class đúng không ạ? Suffer the most from this event, đúng không ạ? Và did it increase the inequality? Vâng, cảm ơn em, câu hỏi rất là hay. Vâng, còn ai có câu hỏi nữa không ạ? Rồi, Yến Nhi ơi, bỏ tay xuống đi. Thầy sẽ cho thời gian để nhóm 4 chuẩn bị câu trả lời. Mời nhóm 3 trả lời câu hỏi của các bạn được chưa ạ?
Dạ vâng ạ, bây giờ bọn em xin phép bắt đầu trả lời các câu hỏi của thầy và các bạn đưa ra. Đầu tiên là thầy có hỏi là một số các cái biện pháp cụ thể mà các nước đã sử dụng để khắc phục cái nền kinh tế sau khủng hoảng, đúng không ạ? Thì bọn em xin phép trả lời đó là có một số biện pháp mà các nước đã tiến hành. Đầu tiên đó là phải đổi mới phương pháp quản lý kinh tế vĩ mô. Thì bọn em lấy ví dụ là ở Hàn Quốc, ở Thái Lan hay là ở Indonesia thì thực thi một chế độ tỷ giá hối đoái linh hoạt hơn và có cơ chế ổn định giá cả của riêng các đất nước. Ví dụ như là các nước đã từ bỏ chế độ tỷ giá hối đoái neo và hướng tới chế độ mục tiêu lạm phát, và đồng thời thì các nước có nỗ lực gia tăng dự trữ ngoại hối nhà nước của mình. Thứ hai đó là cải cách về khu vực tài chính. Thì các nước Đông Á, nhiều nước Đông Á đã thực thi các cái biện pháp chính sách để cải cách khu vực tài chính, như là ví dụ như là xóa và giảm các cái nợ xấu, tái vốn hóa các thể chế tài chính. Thứ hai là đóng cửa các cái thể chế tài chính mà nó đã đổ vỡ. Thứ ba là phải tăng cường giám sát và áp dụng các cái tiêu chuẩn để quản trị kế toán đối với các tổ chức tín dụng và tài chính khác. Thứ tư là đẩy mạnh chuyên môn hóa các thể chế tài chính. Và thứ năm là tăng cường giám sát và điều tiết các tổ chức tín dụng. Đồng thời với đó là nâng cao cái kỷ luật trong thị trường. Biện pháp thứ ba đó là cải cách các cái cách thức quản lý của khu vực xí nghiệp. Thì các nước ví dụ như là Hàn Quốc, Thái Lan và Indonesia đã có hoàn thiện những cái thủ tục về phá sản và nỗ lực tái cơ cấu nợ của các xí nghiệp, đồng thời là củng cố các cái quy định và tiêu chuẩn về cáo bạch và cũng như là bảo vệ quyền lợi của các cổ đông nhỏ, cũng như là có thể nâng cao quyền lực và trách nhiệm của các ban giám đốc của các công ty hay là các xí nghiệp để áp dụng các cái tiêu chuẩn kế toán kiểm toán theo thông lệ quốc tế, hoặc là còn tăng cường mức vốn tự có của doanh nghiệp để tạo thuận lợi cho các hoạt động mua lại, hoạt động sáp nhập các cái doanh nghiệp, kể cả với doanh nghiệp trong nước cũng như đối với doanh nghiệp nước ngoài. Và cuối cùng đó là việc là cải cách các cái thị trường. Thì các nước Đông Á vẫn đã và đang phát triển thị trường trái phiếu định danh bằng nội tệ của chính mình, và đồng thời thì cải cách thị trường lao động, cho phép các cái xí nghiệp có thể tuyển dụng hoặc làm sa thải những cái lao động một cách dễ dàng hơn và giúp cho các xí nghiệp có thể trở nên linh hoạt hơn. Và đó là câu trả lời của bọn em cho câu hỏi đầu tiên ạ.
Rồi, ok, em cứ tiếp tục trả lời đi ạ.
Thưa thầy là thầy có hỏi bọn em là bản chất và những cái nguyên nhân chính dẫn đến cái khủng hoảng kinh tế. Thì theo bọn em thì nguyên nhân chính đó là do nguyên nhân bên trong, mất cân đối bên trong là giữa chế độ tỷ giá hối đoái cố định và chính sách tiền tệ thả lỏng. Đầu tiên về chế độ tỷ giá hối đoái cố định thì những con rồng châu Á đã áp dụng tỷ giá hối đoái cố định để thu hút đầu tư nước ngoài. Tuy nhiên thì nó lại có một cái tác dụng ngược lại, đó là
Rồi, em tiếp tục đi ạ.
Đó là đầu tư tràn lan quá nhiều vào những ngành chỉ mang lại những lợi ích trước mắt, đặc biệt là vào kinh doanh bất động sản. Quá nhiều và tòa nhà văn phòng được xây ra cái tình trạng gây ra cái tình trạng ế thừa, và nó lại không tạo được những bước tiến thực chất trong sản xuất cũng như là nâng cao năng suất tổng hợp. Mà thế nên là đấy là một phần khiến cho xuất khẩu của Thái Lan bị giảm sút. Và một cái lý do nữa khiến cho xuất khẩu của Thái Lan bị giảm sút đó chính là tỷ giá hối đoái cố định. Cái tỷ giá hối đoái này không thực tế, bởi vì khi mà sản xuất bị giảm sút và xuất khẩu bị giảm sút như vậy thì đồng tiền của Thái Lan thực tế thì nó đã không được ở cái mức giá cố định đấy nữa, mà nó đã thấp hơn, nhưng cái mức giá cố định đấy thì nó lại quá cao, và nó càng làm cho cái xuất khẩu của Thái Lan bị giảm. đồng nghĩa với việc đó thì xuất khẩu sản xuất của Thái Lan cũng không được chú trọng nên phải nhập khẩu nhiều, và kinh tế Thái Lan chậm lại, thâm hụt tài khoản vãng lai lớn, nợ nước ngoài gia tăng để bù đắp cho thâm hụt. Thì để giữ tỷ giá hối đoái cố định đấy thì ngân hàng trung ương phải mua lại đồng nội tệ, cung cấp tài sản ngoại tệ, khiến dự trữ ngoại hối của ngân hàng trung ương nhanh chóng cạn kiệt, buộc họ phải thả nổi đồng bạc, và thả nổi đồng bạc thì đồng bạc giảm giá. Khi đồng bạc giảm giá thì xuất khẩu lại tăng và tăng GDP. Tuy nhiên thì vẫn còn rất nhiều cái tuy nhiên là tăng GDP như vậy nhưng mà có rất nhiều những cái khó khăn khác, nhất là những cái áp lực từ bên ngoài. Một số thế lực tài chính phương Tây họ muốn làm giảm giá các đồng tiền của nước Đông Á để nâng cao giá trị đồng USD, bởi vì là các con rồng châu Á này đang quá phụ thuộc vào đồng USD nên sẽ dễ bị lũng đoạn để có lợi thế cho những nước phương Tây, và dễ bề thúc ép các nước này di chuyển cơ cấu kinh tế và chính trị. Đấy là câu trả lời của nhóm em ạ.
Vâng, cảm ơn nhóm. Vâng, rất là tốt. Rất là tốt. Vâng, đúng rồi đấy ạ. Chúng ta có vẻ như là chúng ta đã bắt đầu quen hơn với cả cái môn học, với cách tư duy của môn học này rồi. Vâng, Phùng Bích Chi có một câu trả lời rất là toàn diện, thầy phải đánh giá rất cao cái câu trả lời của em đấy. Dạ. Các bạn chắc được nghe được đúng không ạ? Có hai cái nguyên nhân đúng không? Trong và ngoài, về bản chất là như vậy. Ở bên trong thì như Phùng Minh Chi đã nói rằng là nó là cái việc mà đầu tư quá nhiều dựa vào tài chính, dựa vào bất động sản, là những cái ngành nghề mà nó không thực sự tạo ra của cải vật chất, đúng không ạ? Không thực sự tạo ra cái giá trị gia tăng cho xã hội, nó chỉ khiến cho nền kinh tế phát triển nóng và tạo ra cơ hội cho những cái người đầu cơ mà thôi. Đến khi mà bên cạnh đấy thì chính phủ Thái Lan và một số nước Đông Á thì lại duy trì cùng một lúc hai cái tham vọng, cùng một lúc duy trì được hai vấn đề. Một là họ vẫn muốn giữ cái giá của đồng tiền nội tệ của mình thấp, giữ giá của đồng tiền nội tệ để có thể là giữ cố định đồng tiền nội tệ để ổn định tỷ giá và ổn định các cái vấn đề về xuất nhập khẩu. Nhưng mặt khác, họ lại vẫn muốn có cái sự tự chủ trong vấn đề thi hành các chính sách tiền tệ, trong việc cân bằng cái tài khoản vãng lai. Thì khi mà họ không có đủ khả năng cân bằng thì họ phải vay nợ, đúng không? Và khi mà vay nợ thì đến kỳ hạn trả nợ thì họ sẽ phải trả hết cái dự trữ ngoại tệ, ngoại hối của họ. Và cuối cùng là dẫn tới cái thực tế là bắt buộc họ phải thả nổi cái đồng ngoại tệ để có thể cân bằng lại cái tài khoản vãng lai và chấp nhận cái sự suy giảm kinh tế, và nó kéo theo cái hiệu ứng domino trên toàn cầu. Và như Minh Chi cũng có nhấn mạnh thêm là cả cái yếu tố về bên ngoài nữa, các cái thế lực, đúng không ạ, các nước phát triển họ muốn lũng đoạn thị trường, họ muốn tìm cách.
So I'm gonna answer about another question about the reasons behind the IMF's involvement. So we'll find 5 reasons here. The first one is reasonable stability. Many Asian countries face collapsing currency, soaring inflation, and sharp economic downturn. The IMF intervened to prevent the crisis from spreading further and destabilizing the entire region. By offering financial assistance, the IMF aimed to restore confidence in the affected economies and prevent social and political unrest. The second one is global economic interests. Asian economies were major players in international trade and investment, and their downturns threatened to disrupt global supply chains and economic growth. The IMF intervention was motivated by the desire to safeguard the interests of its member countries, which had significant economic ties with the affected Asian economies. The third, preventing contagion. The Asian financial crisis demonstrated to vulnerability of interconnected economies and highlighted the risk of financial contagion. The IMF recognized the need to contain the crisis to prevent it spreading to other regions and causing a global financial meltdown. The IMF aimed to stabilize their economies and restore investor confidence, thus minimizing by the risk of contagion by providing rescue packages to affected countries. Fourth, promoting economic reform. The IMF assistance was conditional upon the implementation of structural reforms in the recipient country. These reforms often include measures such as fiscal austerity, financial sector restructuring, and marketing liberalization. The political motivation behind this condition was to address the underlying weakness in the affected economies, promoting good governance and created more stable and market-oriented economic system. Fifth is influence and conditionality. The IMF's involvement in providing rescue packages allowed it to exert influence over the economic policy of the recipient country. The condition attached to the financial assistance provided an opportunity for the IMF to advocate for its preferred policy prescriptions, such as opening up markets, reducing trade barriers, and promoting transparency and accountability. And that is the answer from that question about political reasons.
Cảm ơn Nga. Cảm ơn Nga vừa trả lời đúng không?
Dạ vâng.
Thế còn bạn đặt câu hỏi cũng là bạn Nga đúng không?
Dạ vâng, đấy là bạn Thúy Nga.
Thúy Nga, em ok chưa? Có phản biện gì không ạ?
Em có thêm một cái nội dung nữa, đó là sau khi em đặt câu hỏi em có tìm hiểu được là thì khi mà có một cái cuộc gặp giữa chính phủ Thái Lan và chính phủ Mỹ, sau cái cuộc gặp đấy thì chính phủ Mỹ đã đồng ý là funding cho cái IMF để có cái rescue package vào Thái Lan.
Cái nội dung của cặp đấy là gì? Thế đổi lại thì nước Mỹ sẽ được cái gì? Em có tìm hiểu không?
Cái này thì em vẫn đang đọc nốt trên, em chưa tóm tắt đến.
Rồi, ok, cảm ơn chia sẻ của Nga. Lan nữa, nếu mà em tìm thêm cái thông tin về việc là Mỹ yêu cầu cái gì thì em up lên trên này nhé, trên đoạn chat nhé.
Vâng ạ.
Chat. Ok, đấy cũng là một thông tin rất là hay. Mời nhóm 8 ạ, nhóm cuối cùng.
Đấy ạ. Em tên là Phương Nguyên, đến từ nhóm 8. And today, us Group 8 will present the initiative, purpose, and development of the U.S. Federal Reserve System, or shortly Fed. What are the roles and indirect influence of Fed's activities on the current international monetary and financial system? Thầy có nghe rõ được em không? Tại em có điện thoại ạ. Thầy có nghe không?
Được em ạ.
Vâng, được ạ. First, we are going to talk about the initiative of Fed. The primary objective of the Fed is to promote price stabilities through employment and sustainable economic growth. To achieve these goals, the Fed carries out several key initiatives. First is monetary policies. Fed formulates and implement monetary policies to regulate the money supply, interest rates, and credit condition in the economy. It uses various tools such as open market operations, reserve requirement, and discount rates to influence the availabilities and cost of credit. Second is financial stabilities. Fed plays a crucial role in maintaining the stabilities and integrities of the financial system. It supervises and regulates banks, monitors financial markets, and takes measures to mitigate systemic risk that could disrupt the functioning of the economies. Third is payment system oversight. Fed ensures the smooth functioning of the payment and settlement systems in the United States. It provides payment service to the banks and other financial institutions, promotes efficiency and securities in electronic transactions, and set rules and standards for the payment systems. Fourth is the economic research and analysis. Fed conducts extensive research and analysis to understand economic trends, assess risk, and inform policies decisions. It collects data, publishes reports, and collaborates with other research institutions to support evidence-based policymaking. And finally, consumer protection. Fed has a mandate to protect consumer rights and ensure fair practice in consumers' financial services. It enforces regulations such as the Truth in Lending Act and the Equal Credit Opportunity Act, which aim to safeguard consumers from unfair or deceptive practices in lending and credit transactions. So, to conclude, these initiative reflects the Fed's commitment to maintaining a stable financial system, promoting economic growth, and safeguarding the interests of consumers. The Fed operates independently within the framework of its statutory mandates and is accountable to the public, Congress, for its action and decision. Second, we're gonna talk about the purpose of Fed. The Federal Reserve responsibilities falls into four general areas. First is conducting the nation monetary policies by influencing monies and credit condition in the economy in pursuit of full employment and stable prices. As the Federal Reserve conducts monetary policies, it influences employment and inflation, primarily through using its policies tools to influence the availabilities and cost of credits in the economy. The primary tools of the Federal Reserve used to conduct monetary policies is the federal fund rate, the rate that banks pays for overnight borrowing in the federal funds market. Changes in the federal funds rate influence other interest rates that in turn influence borrowing costs for households and businesses as well as broader financial conditions. Second is supervising and regulating banks and other important financial institutions to ensure the safety and soundness of the nation's banking and financial systems, as well as protect the credit rights of consumers. The Federal Reserve's supervision activities includes examination and inspection to ensure that financial institutions operate in a safe and sound manners and comply with laws and regulation. These include an assessment of a financial institution, risk management systems, financial condition, and compliance. The Federal Reserve tailors its supervisory approach based on the size and complexity of firms. In 2020, the Federal Reserve conducted 263 examinations of state members banks, 2,704 inspection of banks holding companies, and 146 inspections at savings and loan holding companies. Next is maintaining the stabilities of the financial system and containing systemic risk that may arise in financial market. The Fed's day-to-day activities of conducting monetary policies, supervising and regulating banks, and providing payment service all help maintain the stabilities of the financial system. When the financial system is experiencing several shocks, the Fed is prepared to provide liquidity that is emergency access to cash to financial market and institution in a number of ways. These include temporary changes to the market operations, lending through the discount window to eligible banks, and operating special lending facilities for other financial institutions. This is why the Fed and other central banks are known as lenders of last resort. And finally, providing certain financial service to the U.S. government, U.S. financial institution, and foreign official institution, and playing a major role in operating and overseeing the nation's payment systems. Firstly, providing financial services to the U.S. government. Fed acts as a banker and official agent for the U.S. government. Second is services to the financial institution. Fed offers various services to the depositories institution, including maintaining accounts, processing electronic fund transfer, and providing access to liquidity through discount windows lending. Secondly, operating payment system. automated clearinghouse, in ACH in short, wire transfer system, a real-time gross settlement system that enables a large value electronic transfer between financial institutions, check clearing and collection to ensure that funds are transferred efficiently between banks. Thirdly, overseeing payment systems. Payment system overnight, Fed sets rules, standards, and guidelines to ensure the integrities and resilience of these systems. Next is collaboration with industries. The Fed collaborates with other regulations, financial institutions, and industry stakeholders to develop and implement policies and practices that enhance the securities, efficiency, and accessibility of payment systems. In conclusion, these activities to support the smooth flow of funds, promote confidence in financial transaction, and contribute to the stabilities and efficiency of the overall economies. And we're going to talk about the development of Fed. The Federal Reserve System, commonly known as the Fed, was created in 1913 in response to financial crisis that had occurred in the U.S. throughout the 19th and the early 20th centuries. Its creation was primarily spurred on by the Panic of 1907, which saw a run on banks and a sharp contraction in credit. The Fed was established as an independent government agency with a mandate to stabilize the economy and ensure the safety of soundness of the banking system. It was initially given the power to issue currencies, set interest rates, regulate banks, and act as the lender of last resort. Over the years, the Fed has evolved and adapted to changing economic condition in the 1920s and in the 1930s. It implemented policies to counter the effects of the Great Depression, such as lowering interest rates and increasing the money supplies. During World War II, the Fed helped finance the war effort by buying government bonds. In the post-war period, the Fed continued to play an important role in managing the economy. It implemented policies to combat inflation in the 1970s and in the 1980s, and responded to the global financial crisis of 2008 by cutting interest rate and implementing a program of quantitative easing. Today, the Fed is made out of 12 regional banks located throughout the United States, as well as a board of governors in Washington, D.C. The Federal Reserve Chair, currently Jerome Powell, leads the agency's effort to promote economic stability and manage monetary policies. The Fed's action continues to influence the economy, from setting interest rates to regulating the banking system and promoting financial stability. And I'm gonna talk about the roles of Fed activities on the current international monetary and financial systems.
So the roles of Fed activities on the current international monetary and financial system. We divide this into two separate parts. The first part is the roles of Federal Reserve activities on the current international monetary system. So the first role is conduct monetary policy. The Federal Reserve's monetary policy decisions have implications for the international monetary system. By adjusting interest rates and implementing various policy tools, the Fed influences the supply of money, credit conditions, and economic growth in the U.S. These actions can impact global financial markets, exchange rates, and capital flows as investors respond to changes in U.S. monetary policy. So this picture describes how monetary policy affects employment and prices. The effects on spending. The level of long-term interest rates affects household and businesses' spending decisions, which in turn influence the level of economic output, employment, and inflation. So for example, Lowering mortgage rates will make buying a house more affordable, encouraging some individuals who were previously renters to purchase homes. As more individuals purchase homes, employment rises among home builders and many other types of home supply industries. So lower mortgage rates may also allow some existing homeowners to refinance their mortgage at lower rates. And third, free up income for spending on many other types of goods and services. So in addition, lower interest rates on consumer loans may spur greater spending on durable goods, long-lasting manufactured goods, such as televisions and automobiles. The increased demand for all goods and services will boost employment across a variety of industries. Corresponding to the increased demand and change in employment, prices will adjust. So we have an example. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic, still evolving at the time of this publication, is fundamentally a global public health crisis. The coronavirus, as well as measures taken to limit its spread and protect public health, including social distancing, triggered deep disruptions in economic activity, including a surge in job losses and a sharp decline in GDP, and a severe change in financial markets around the globe. The Fed initial response to these extraordinary developments was guided by its mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices, as well as its role in fostering the stability of the financial system. And in March 2020, the FOMC, which stands for the Federal Open Market Committee, lowered the policy interest rate to near zero. It also introduced forward guidance, which involved to signal that the committee expected to maintain this near zero target range until the economy was essentially at the FOMC's employment and inflation goals. So in addition to these steps, the Federal Reserve took forceful measures in 4 areas. The first one is open market operations to restore market functioning. And the second is actions to improve liquidity conditions in short-term funding markets. The third is programs in coordination with the Treasury Department to facilitate more directly the flow of credits. And the last one is measures to encourage banks to use their substantial capital and liquidity buffers built up over the last decade to support the economy during this difficult time. So as a result, many of these measures increased the size of the Federal Reserve's balance sheet. Total assets stood near $7 trillion, or 35% as a ratio of nominal GDP by mid-2020. And the second role is they manage exchange rates. The Fed's actions can influence exchange rates, which are crucial for international trade and investment. Changes in U.S. monetary policy can affect the relative value of U.S. dollar against other currencies, leading to fluctuations in exchange rates. And these movements can impact import competitiveness, import prices, and cross-border investment, influencing the international monetary system. And about the third role is they provide dollar liquidity. As you know, dollar liquidity refers to the availability of and ease of access to US dollars in financial markets. So it is a measure of the amount of US dollars that are readily available for borrowing, lending, or trading purposes. The dollar liquidity is important for the functioning of global financial markets, as many transactions and investment are denominated in US dollars. When dollar's liquidity is high, it indicates that there is ample supply of US dollars, making it easier for market participants to conduct transactions. Conversely, when dollar liquidity is low, it can lead to tighter credit conditions and potentially impact the stability of financial markets. So as a lender of last resort in US, the Federal Reserve plays a key role in providing dollar liquidity during times of financial stress. The Fed can establish swap lines with foreign central banks to ensure an adequate supply of dollars and stabilize financial markets during crisis. So the question set itself, how do they function? Acting on behalf of the Federal Reserve System, the New York Fed and a foreign central bank agree to exchange or swap currency of equal value for a set period of time. The Fed supplies dollars and receives an equivalent value of foreign currency. So at the time of the agreement, a market-based exchange rate is applied to exchange foreign currency for US dollars. That same exchange rate is then applied when the transaction matures. In addition to a fee paid by the foreign central bank, the Fed receives back the same amount of dollars it initially provided, meaning it bears no foreign exchange risk. And it is the foreign central bank, not the Fed, that bears the risk of lending to financial institutions located within its jurisdiction. So when US dollars are made available to foreign central banks during times of market stress, it provides certainty and stable pricing to financial institutions in their jurisdictions. The financial institutions are then able to extend credit to households and businesses that rely on US dollar funding markets for trading and investing, and US dollar funding markets around the world continue to function normally. As a result, funding markets in the US remain stable. So the development in one part of today's global economy can have significant impacts for everyone. Entering into US dollar liquidity arrangements with foreign central banks ensures that financial institutions around the world can provide credit to households and businesses when they need it, and shields the US economy from financial strain. And for example, as you can see in the table, SSCB and TSCB refer to countries of central banks with access to standing and temporary swap lines, respectively. And the other refers to country without swap lines, but with FIMA, stands for the Foreign and International Monetary Authorities, established by Fed, repo facility access. So during the very early period of the pandemic in 2020, the settlement of dollars demanded at the Fed's standing swap lines operations calmed funding strains. The currencies of countries with access to swap lines, SSCBs and TSCBs, stabilized quicker than those without, which is the others country. And although relatively less liquid trading conditions in others countries may have initially amplified strains in their local dollar funding markets, and after the activation of the FIMA repo accounts, the currencies of other countries has large decline in dollar funding strains, despite minimal aggregate usage of the FIMA repo facility in the spring of 2020. So now let's move on the Fed roles in the current international financial system. So the first impact is they promote financial system stability. A financial system is considered stable when financial institutions like banks, savings and loans, and other financial product and service providers and financial markets are able to provide households, communities, and businesses with the resources, services, and products they need to invest, grow, and participate in a well-functioning economy. So as you can see in the table, the key participant in the US and global financial system includes the lenders and the savers, which is who invest and raise funds, and they affect the indirect finance and the direct finance. And they are matched up with borrowers and spenders through various markets and intermediaries. The Federal Reserve monitors the financial system to ensure the linkages among entities are well functioning and adjust its policy making or engagement with other policymakers to address any emerging concern. And the second role is the financial regulation. The Fed exercises regulatory oversight over U.S. financial institutions and contributes to setting global standards through its participation in international forums. Its regulatory actions and supervisions of banks and financial markets impact the stability and resilience of the international financial system. The Federal Reserve and other bank regulators have long supervised individual banks and financial institutions to make sure they are run in the prudent and safe and sound manner and are not taking excessive risk. The goal of this tradition's microprudential supervisory approach is to ensure that individual banks and financial institutions are less likely to fail and to help avoid any associated adverse circumstances for their customers. So in the heat of the 2007 and the 2009, the financial crisis, however, it became clear this microprudential focus did not accurately identify risk that develop across and between markets and institutions. These risks threatened to set off a cascade of failures that could have undermined the entire financial system. Thus, a central element of the Dodd-Frank Act is the requirement that the Federal Reserve and other financial regulatory agencies look across the entire financial system for risk, adopting the macroprudential approach to supervisions and regulation, whereas a traditional or macroprudential approach to supervisions and regulations focuses on the safety and soundness of individual institutions. The macroprudential approach centers on the stability of the financial system as a whole. So overall, the Fed's activities have significant impact on the current international monetary and financial system. Its activities play an important role in shaping global financial conditions and the functioning of the international monetary system.
Okay, so for the end of our presentations, I'll give some information about the indirect influence of Fed activities on the current international monetary and financial system. Firstly, the US dollar dominance. The Fed's policy and action have a profound impact on the US dollar, which is the world primary reserve currency as the central bank of the United States. The Fed monetary policy decisions, such as interest rate adjustments and quantitative easing programs, directly affect the value and stability of the US dollar. The strength or weakness of the dollar has repercussions on global trade, capital flows, and exchange rates, influencing the functioning of the international monetary system. Secondly, financial market integrations. The actions of the Fed reverberate through global financial markets. Changing U.S. monetary policies, particularly unexpected or significant shifts, can trigger volatility and spillover effects in international financial markets. Investors closely monitor the Fed's decisions, and reaction to its policy announcement can lead to fluctuation in asset prices, including stock, bonds, and commodities in our market worldwide. The interconnected of a global financial market means that the Fed's policy have implications for investors and institutions across borders. Next, the capital flows and emerging markets. The Fed's monetary policy actions, especially interest rate change, impact capital flows to and from emerging market economies. When the Fed tightens monetary policies, rising interest rates or reducing a stimulus measure, it can lead to a withdrawal of capital from emerging markets, causing currency depreciations, higher borrowing costs, and financial instability. They can pose challenges for emerging economies as they become vulnerable to external shocks and liquidity pressures. Not Number 4, the global policy coordinations. Defense policy and decisions often serve as a reference for other central banks around the world. Central banks monitor defense actions and may adjust their own policies to align with or respond to changes U.S. monetary policies. This coordination is crucial in fostering stability and avoiding divergent policy actions that could lead to global imbalance or disruptions. That's for the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening. So, anyone have any questions or more information about our topic?
Có ai đặt câu hỏi gì cho nhóm số 8 không ạ? Hơi tiếc một chút, nếu các em làm slide được thì sẽ hay hơn. Mời Phương Thảo.
Em là thầy ạ.
Và Yến Nhi đúng không? Ok, Phương Thảo, Yến Nhi, Khánh Linh.
Em có 2 câu hỏi dành cho nhóm 8 á. The first question is, in the purpose of Fed, you said that Fed maintain the stability of financial system, and the way they do is increase the interest rate to hold the inflation, not to increase too much. So can you tell me what the theory is applied by the Fed in the above action I tell? And the question 2 is how the Fed's contractionary monetary policies have affected the Asian monetary system. Nhóm 8 có nghe rõ câu hỏi mình đặt không ạ? Các bạn nhóm 8 có nghe rõ phần câu hỏi mình đặt không ạ?
Có.
Rồi ưu tiên cho Khánh Linh ạ, mời Khánh Linh đi.
I want to ask your group questions. What is the biggest role of the Fed?
Ok.
Rồi Yến Nhi ạ.
Ý câu hỏi của em là kiểu cái digital economy nó đang phát triển rất là nhanh chóng ấy ạ. Thì em nghĩ là những cái chính sách của Fed nó cũng sẽ cần phải được adapt để nó phù hợp với cả cái tình hình kinh tế bây giờ ấy ạ. Thì là không biết là cái role của Fed ở trong cái thời điểm này đối với cả những cái digital economy như thế thì nó có sự khác biệt hay là nó có sự mới mẻ nào không ạ?
Ok. Câu hỏi của Yến Nhi luôn rất là hay đúng không ạ? Mời lúc nãy là chúng ta có mời Khánh Linh.
Em thưa thầy là em có một câu hỏi cho nhóm bạn là khi cuộc khủng hoảng tài chính 2007-2008 nổ ra thì Fed đã làm gì để góp phần ổn định nền kinh tế ạ?
Rất là nhiều câu hỏi. Mời vẫn còn câu hỏi không ạ? Sao? Có ý kiến gì không hả em? Phương Nguyên.
Không, em cho em nghe lại cái câu hỏi vừa rồi, cái khủng hoảng 2007 ạ. Bạn đọc lại cái câu hỏi gì?
Trong khủng hoảng tài chính. Khủng hoảng tài chính 2008 thì Fed đã làm gì?
Okay.
Còn Quang Minh, mời Đàm Quang Minh.
Em thầy nghe được không?
Được em ạ.
My question for the group is the Fed quantitative easing programs have had a significant impact on the U.S. economy, but what is the long-term impact of this program? And the second is, in your opinion, in the future, will this have a positive or negative impact on the economy?
Hơi khó nghe Minh ơi, phải không nghe được em?
Em thầy nghe lại được chưa?
Được rồi em ạ.
Câu hỏi của em là the Fed's quantitative easing programs have had a significant impact on the U.S. economy. What is the long-term impact of this program? And the second question is, in your opinion, in the future, will this have a positive or negative impact on the economy?
Rồi ạ, vâng, nhóm nghe rõ chưa ạ? Câu hỏi cuối cùng của Thùy Linh ạ. Cảm ơn Quang Minh.
Em có một câu hỏi là it is said that the Fed is controlled by a board of governors, but still there is a statement saying the Fed is independent. So I don't really understand about this. Can you explain briefly about this issue?
Có rõ không ạ? Thì ý của Thùy Linh hỏi rằng là Fed thì được quản lý bởi một cái board of governor trong cái sơ đồ tổ chức ấy. Thế nhưng mà trên thực tế thì người ta lại nói là Fed thì độc lập so với cả chính phủ. Thì các em có thể giải thích lại thì cái ý này. Đúng không ạ Linh? Ý của Linh là như vậy đúng không ạ?
Dạ đúng rồi ạ.
Rồi, ok. Chúng ta sẽ quay trở lại với nhóm số 4 điện. Mời các em trả lời phần câu hỏi của các em. Mời nhóm số 4 ạ. Hôm nay các bạn có nhóm số mấy nhỉ? Hôm nay nhóm mấy nhỉ? Cái nhóm mà 208 ấy, Financial Crisis là nhóm mấy nhỉ?
Nhóm 4 em sẽ trả lời câu hỏi của bạn Yến Nhi vừa nãy. Alo, mọi người nghe rõ ạ?
Yến Nhi và Khánh Linh, rồi, ok, mời em.
Vâng, em trả lời câu hỏi của bạn Yến Nhi. Okay, first of all, the 2008 financial crisis did exacerbate the problem of class division. The crisis has a profound impact on the global economy and social classes. While class division already existed prior to the crisis, it became more pronounced and severe as the result of the crisis. During the crisis, major banks and financial institutions faced bankrupt or severe difficulties, leading to job losses and economic recessions. The wealthy class could demonstrate more resilience, while the poor and middle-class individuals often face significant hardships. The affluent individuals were more likely to have investment capability and benefit from the recovery and financial markets, while the poor had limited opportunity to recover their personal finances. So the working class and the general population were the most negatively affected by the global financial crisis. On the following reasons. First of all, they lose their job and got unemployed. The economic recessions and downsizing of the business led to a significant increase in unemployed rates. Workers face job losses and difficulties in finding new employment. The second is the income loss and declining living standards. The working class often had low incomes and limited saving in sustain their livelihood during the challenging times. Job losses result in a loss of primary income, leading to difficulties in meeting daily expenses such as living costs, rent payment, tuition fees, and healthcare expenses. Income loss and declining living standard hinder the ability to access essential services and opportunities for economic and social development. Okay, the third reason is the homelessness and the homelessness. They have no home. The financial crisis caused a decline in the value of real estate, particularly homes. Many working class individuals and households had purchased homes through subprime mortgages, which carried high interest rates and higher risks. The fourth and the last reason is limit access to credit and financial services. During the crisis, banks and financial institutions faced difficulties and liquidity shortage. The limited of working class and general population's ability to access financial services, including obtaining loans for home purchases or investment. The restricted access to credit and financial services created difficulties in building and maintaining personal financial stability and business venture. Okay, in conclusion, the 2008 financial crisis did exacerbate the problem of class division, and the working class and the general population were the most negatively affected by the global by the crisis. That's all. Xin lỗi mọi người về hơi ồn.
Tiếp đến em sẽ trả lời câu hỏi của bạn Thùy Linh là What is the effect of the 2008 financial crisis to Vietnam? The 2008 financial crisis has a significant impact on Vietnam. Although it was not as severe as in some other countries, there are some key effects. First of all, economic slowdown. Vietnam's economy experienced a slowdown in growth as a result of reduced global demand and declining export. The crisis led to decrease in foreign investment and a drop in remittance from overseas Vietnamese. Second is the stock market decline. Vietnam's stock market experienced a sharp decline, with the VN index falling by more than 16% in 2008. This led to a loss of investor confidence and a decline in the capital market. Third is banking sector challenge. Some Vietnamese banks face difficulties due to exposure to global financial institutions affected by the crisis. This led to liquidity problems and a tightening of credit availability impacting businesses and individuals. Next is the government response. The Vietnamese government implement various measures to mitigate the impact of the crisis. This include stimulus package, monetary policy adjustments, and support for affected industries. Last is the crisis highlight the need for Vietnam to diversify its export markets and reduce its reliance on a few key trading partners. It also emphasized the importance of strengthening financial regulation and risk management in banking sector. Overall, while Vietnam was not as severely affected as some other countries, the 2008 financial crisis did have a significant impact on its economy. However, the country was able to recover relatively quickly with strong economic growth resuming in subsequent years. That is all.
Vâng ạ, cảm ơn phần trả lời của nhóm số 5 ạ. Các bạn Yến Nhi, Khánh Linh, Vũ Khánh Linh có phản biện gì không ạ?
Dạ em không ạ.
Rồi, ok, cảm ơn Nhi. Thế này nhé, của nhóm 8 có rất là nhiều câu hỏi. Các bạn đặt 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, khoảng 8 câu. Thế thì bây giờ một là các bạn đánh lại cái câu hỏi của các bạn trên cửa sổ chat này. Và từ giờ cho tới 12 giờ 30 thì nhóm số 8 gửi lại cái phần trả lời ở trên team này cho thầy nhé. Được không ạ?
Gửi lại là viết ra chữ ạ?
Viết ra Word em ạ.
Vâng ạ.
Thế còn bây giờ về vấn đề ôn tập thì cô Thùy Anh ôn tập cho các em rồi đúng không? Về ôn tập còn vấn đề gì không ạ? Cô Thùy Anh như là cho các em đề cương rồi đúng không ạ? Nhi.
Em như là chưa hay sao ạ? Cô mới cho phần mà cô giảng thôi ạ.
Phần cô giảng thêm mấy cái chương, cái phần tự luận thì cô đã cho chưa?
Hình như là chưa ạ.
Được rồi, thì như này đi, thầy có một chút việc, có gì thầy sẽ nhắn cho Tâm Nhi nhé. Xong em sẽ share với lớp một số những cái trọng tâm ôn tập, thầy sẽ viết ra. Thầy sẽ share với Tâm Nhi được không ạ?
Dạ vâng ạ.
Sau đấy thì em gửi lại cho các bạn trong lớp. Thầy phải có một chút việc thì phải đi. Được rồi, những cái chương nào thầy dạy thầy sẽ nốt lại cho các bạn một số các cái trọng tâm, đặc biệt là cái phần mấy chương cuối ấy. Đấy, cái chương về
Mấy cái bọn em xin cả slide được không ạ?
Slide thì để thầy xem, tùy tình hình. Thực tế thì nó ở trong giáo trình có hết rồi, thầy sẽ nốt ra cho các bạn nhé. Nghĩa là đề này vẫn là đề đóng đấy, nên vẫn phải ôn đấy các em ạ. Rồi, thế thì thầy sẽ
chi tiết thì tốt thầy ạ.
Ok, biết thế. Cuối giờ chiều thầy sẽ gửi lại cho. Nhé, thế thì bây giờ chúng ta sẽ kết thúc ở đây. Nhóm 8 gửi cái phần trả lời của nhóm 8 lên. Và chiều thì thầy sẽ gửi cho các bạn một số các cái trọng tâm ôn tập. Nếu các bạn có câu hỏi gì thì cứ nhắn tin cho thầy, được không ạ?
Vâng ạ.
Ok, thì chúng ta sẽ kết thúc lớp ở đây nhé. Cảm ơn các em.
Em chào thầy ạ.
Chào các em.
Em chào thầy ạ.
Em chào thầy ạ.